Welcome. Today, we're going to walk you through how to get your organization ready for agents using the simple 5-pillar framework. By the end, you'll have the framework, a quick assessment you can run in 10 minutes, and clear next steps to move forward with confidence. I'm Rowbotham, a senior product marketing manager at Microsoft, and for the past 5 years, I've focused on conversational, generative, and agentic AI, and I'm excited to share my experiences and insights with you today. So let's get started. So what will we cover? First, we'll define what agent readiness means, why it matters for scaling AI agents. Then we'll share key insights from enterprises already on this agent journey, what's working, where there are opportunities. We'll walk through the 5 pillars of the Agent Readiness Framework so you can see how it applies in practice. And then finally, outlining clear next steps so you know how to get started and accelerate your own agent readiness journey. Agent readiness is more than a technology conversation. It's about aligning people, process, and technology so you can design, deploy, and integrate AI agents effectively, aligned to your organizational goals. It isn't a one-and-done exercise, it's continuous. Agent readiness becomes the foundation that helps you turn isolated experiments into a connected strategy. And without it, you invite fragmentation, inefficiency, and risk. But why now? The scale of AI agents is accelerating. IDC projects 1.3 billion agents in just a few years, and agents are introducing new ways of working across industries. With that growth, organizations need a clear plan for agents and why readiness matters. It's about preparing now to capture the value rather than scrambling later. So let's start with some of the top-line findings from the survey that help shape the framework, and then we'll dive deeper. First, process knowledge. 78% reported gaps in capturing business process and data dependencies to complete their workflows. It's a reminder that you can't agentify what you haven't mapped. If teams don't have a clear view of how the workflows work today, it becomes challenging to design agents that can actually reliably improve that process. Secondly, data access. 80% report data that is not easily accessible across their teams. Agents are only as good as the data that they sit on. If that data isn't accessible, then the number of viable use cases collapses before it even begins. Third, sponsorship. About 2/3 are still naming accountable executive sponsors, champion agent use cases, remove blockers, and fund success. Now, despite these gaps, momentum is real. Roughly 4 in 5 reported being in or beyond pilots. 15% are still reevaluating their strategy, and 32% still plan to scale more broadly. So let's introduce the Agent Readiness Framework and how it can start to help you understand the gaps and opportunities in your company. These are the 5 pillars that work together. AI and business strategy, aligning use cases to real priorities and measurable outcomes. Business process mapping, documenting workflows and dependencies so agents fit. Technology and data strategy, using the right platforms and making data accessible and trustworthy. Organizational readiness and culture by preparing the roles, skills, and change management for adoption. And then security and governance, building trust with controls for privacy, compliance, and risk. Each play an important role for organizations to have a balanced agent readiness strategy. And you can learn more about these pillars at aka.ms/agent readiness framework. The 5 pillars we've just discussed are grouped into 2 practical buckets. Strategy readiness, which covers the why and the where, is ultimately the vision, the direction, and the prioritization needed to align AI and agents to business goals. And then execution readiness is the how, the operational foundation required for secure, effective deployment across data, systems, talent, and governance. Now, the trick is getting the balance right. You need clear vision and a reliable day-to-day execution working together to scale agents successfully. Now, before we go deeper, let's cover where the insights came from. We surveyed 500 agent decision makers and influencers across 13 countries and 16 industries. The sample is globally balanced, 40% North America, 40% Europe, and 20% Asia Pacific and emerging markets. Respondents are large enterprises with at least 1,000 employees or more and at least $1 billion in annual revenue. And these are the survey questions which map directly to the 5 pillars of the Agent Readiness Framework. They show how readiness is measured across strategy, process, technology, culture, and governance. And each question reflects an organization's capability to scale AI agents effectively, not just technically, but operationally and organizationally. This structure is what powers the readiness assessment that we'll cover and the personalized report you'll receive after completing it. And here is the methodology for how the survey questions and capabilities roll up into the 5 pillars. Each capability, like AI vision, workflow KPIs, or data governance, maps to one of those pillars that you just saw, and they flow into either strategy or execution scores, which rolls into your overall readiness score. And this structure ensures every capability contributes meaningfully to the assessment and not just a tech or process view in isolation. Now let's get into the findings in more detail. There are 4 segments based on organization strategy and execution readiness scores. Achievers, about 20% of respondents, score high on both. Visionaries have strong strategies, but their execution lags, roughly 10%. Operators show the opposite pattern, good execution, weaker strategy, also around 10% of respondents. And then there's discoverers that make up the majority, about 60% with lower scores in both areas. Now, most organizations are still early in their readiness journey. However, low readiness doesn't mean they aren't using agents. It simply means they haven't invested enough in the strategy and the execution disciplines that enable scale. And that's why a structured framework matters. It gives the path to move from a discoverer to achiever, from experimenting to scaling with confidence. This visual shows how segments perform across those 5 pillars. Achievers score in the mid-80s across every area, balanced strategy and execution, down to discoverers who land in the mid-20s across the board, showing they're more early in their journey. Now the takeaway, readiness can improve when organizations build both a clear strategy and an operational muscle to deliver it. Let's now bring it back to why agent readiness matters. The purpose of readiness is simple. It helps organizations prepare to succeed with agents by having a clear strategy and execution discipline in place early. One of the most practical indicators of that preparation is how quickly an organization can move agents beyond pilots. We asked respondents to share their timelines for deploying AI agents past the pilot phase. Achiever organizations reported an average timeline of about 6 months, while discoverers reported around 15 months. That's roughly a 2.5 times difference in speed based on their own self-reported timelines. The takeaway here isn't that one causes the other. It suggests that organizations with stronger readiness practices tend to report shorter timelines when moving agents from pilots into live use. And agent readiness shouldn't be siloed by department. Successful adoption is about scaling across the business. Procurement, HR, and supply chain show the largest planned increases, around 20 to 23%. Finance and sales and marketing are close behind, while customer service and IT are already further along from both a current and planned usage perspective. Agentic AI is becoming an organizational-wide capability, not just a departmental one. That makes readiness across all pillars essential as organizations prepare for broader use. Okay, let's walk through each of the pillars in more detail and talk about what they look like in practice. Starting with business and AI strategy alignment. Achievers and visionaries lead here. In fact, 59% of achievers report having a unified, cross-functional AI strategy, compared with only 15% of discoverers. Discoverers show much less maturity in building an enterprise-wide approach, which signals early-stage strategy work still underway. When we look at how organizations view AI, visionaries stand out. 74% of visionaries see AI as an essential investment for long-term goals, a strong indicator of confidence and alignment between strategy and long-term value. And when it comes to measurement, achievers separate themselves even further. 62% of achievers strongly agree that they can track the value of AI initiatives using clear financial and operational outcomes. That drops to just 12% for discoverers, with operators also showing lower adoption across success metrics. Strategy alignment isn't just vision. It shows up in how organizations structure their AI approach, how confidently they invest in it, and how rigorously they measure their outcomes. Now let's move from aligning business and AI strategies to a success framework that brings this to life. These 4 dimensions, employee experience, customer engagement, business processes, and innovation, are where agents can deliver meaningful impact. Ask yourself, are you using AI to transform employee experiences? Are you empowering customers with AI-enabled products and services? Are you automating workflows to operate more efficiently? Or are you even accelerating innovation inside your organization? The goal here is to connect the readiness to tangible outcomes, showing how strategy alignment turns into measurable improvements across these 4 areas. Now, once you have your strategy, the next step is building a rhythm of business. That's where organizations define the roles and responsibilities that make that strategy real. It's the shift from what do we want to do to who does what and how we run this. At the top, AI leadership sets the vision and the investment priorities, making decisions quarterly that guide the enterprise roadmap. Senior leadership translates that into business priorities and partnerships, resolving blockers monthly. AI governance operates weekly to enforce standards, manage architecture, and ensure responsible AI practices. And finally, IT and citizen developers drive daily execution, the design, the build, and the adoption activities. Readiness requires accountability from the top down and the bottom up to succeed. Now, the next question is simple. How do we know that this structure is actually working? That's where the metrics matter. They give us a clear way to see whether our operating model and all of the readiness work behind it is actually translating into real impact. So you could look at and consider these 3 types of measures. The first one being core governance metrics, things like intake coverage, registry adoption, and compliance documentation. These tell us whether we have the right controls in place and whether the teams are actually following the process that you set out. Second, the operational and business impact metrics, return on investment, workflow automation, and the reuse of components. These show whether agents are actually delivering the real business impact that you set out. And thirdly, cultural and fluency metrics, like team engagement, learning activity, and adoption. These indicate whether adoption is actually taking hold and is sustainable. Together, these bring the loop full circle, from readiness, execution, measurable outcomes, and continuous improvement. Okay, let's now move on to business process mapping. This is where organizations seek the clarity on the processes and tools that exist today in their business. Only 7% of discoverers strongly agree to capturing business process and data dependencies needed to complete their complex workflows, compared to 54% for achievers. That's a big opportunity, highlighting how early-stage teams struggle to document the basics. We also see a difference in how teams map the systems and tools that power these workflows. Visionaries and achievers lead at 60 to 65%, while discoverers lag at 14%. And when it comes to defining workflow success metrics, even the top performers fall below the 50% mark. All segments have a room to strengthen how they articulate KPIs for each workflow. The takeaway is that documenting business processes, mapping the right dependencies like tools, and defining the KPIs are foundational steps. And without that clarity, it's hard for agents to actually drive consistent, repeatable value across the business. You can try these 4 practical steps that make workflow mapping repeatable and effective. The first one being create an inventory of processes. Document the workflows end to end, who the owners are, the handoffs, and the exceptions. Second, map the dependencies. Identify the tech and data touchpoints that power your workflows today. What data comes in, what data goes out, where does it go, which systems are involved. And third, define the KPIs and business value. Set the measurable outcomes up front, the ROI, the efficiency gains, the compliance improvements. This creates the clarity of what good looks like before any agent is built. And fourth, evaluate and prioritize. Score each workflow using the simple BXT framework and shortlist the ones with the highest impact and feasibility. Let's take a look. The BXT framework helps you do that by looking at 3 dimensions: business impact, experience, and technology feasibility. On business impact, look at how well a use case aligns to your strategy, the value it could create, and the level of change management it requires. On experience, focus on the people side. Who are the key personas that's going to use it? What do they need? How likely are they to adopt the solution or resist the change? And on technology feasibility, evaluate the implementation risks, the safeguards you need for privacy and compliance, and whether the tech stack is actually a good fit for this solution. Scoring each of these use cases across those 3 areas can help you identify scenarios that actually deliver meaningful value, that users will actually use and embrace, and that your organization can implement securely and responsibly. Now let's move into technology and data strategy. How well do organizations integrate AI into their existing IT systems? while achievers lead at 57%, while discoverers are just 6%. Showing integration is a major differentiator, and the technical architecture review could actually help here. When it comes to defining owners for maintaining knowledge sources, operators and achievers are stronger here, but again, discoverers lag at 13%, signaling governance gaps. And finally, data accessibility. Even top performers are under the 50% mark, so translating data into usable and accessible formats continues to remain a challenge across all the segments. Technical readiness isn't about having AI tools. It's actually about integrating the tools into the existing technology stack that you own today, establishing clear ownership for the knowledge sources, and making sure data is accessible, but in a secure and governed way. Now let's make this real by looking at what an AI technology stack could actually look like. And think of it about a set of layers that work together. From user experience with multi-channel entry points like Copilot, Teams, Microsoft 365 and third-party apps, the building tools like Copilot Studio for low-code agent logic, M365 agents for SDK, and the AI agent service. Model hosting, including options from Microsoft Foundry to self-hosted or other clouds for flexibility. The knowledge and tools like connectors, MCPs, APIs to link agents with enterprise systems to complete actions. And then most important, the agent control plane and environment management, which brings the security, lifecycle, observability, and cost controls to ensure trust and scale. Think of it about layering AI into the system you already run today in a way that IT can actually support and scale. Now let's shift to organizational readiness and culture, the people side of scaling agents. About half of achievers, the 5% of discoverers, report having a clear talent strategy, one that defines the future of jobs, the roles, and the skills needed to support an AI-driven business. Having an innovative culture is another differentiator. More than half of operators and achievers say that their teams have embraced a culture of innovation to support building with AI-powered tools. As agent building tools become more accessible, having a culture that empowers those users to innovate within safe guardrails becomes even more important. And then change management. Only 4% of discoverers report having an effective change management practice for new ways of working, compared to 56% for achievers. This is often where programs stall. If people don't understand the shift or can't see themselves in the new ways of work, adoption slows dramatically. Agent readiness ultimately requires a clear talent strategy, a culture of innovation, and structured change practices so the team can be set up for success. Now let's talk about how you can actually prepare your organization and your talent with the right training and upskilling opportunities. You can start by identifying employee groups that will actually be impacted by the change. Segment them by roles, whether they're leaders, IT owners, professional developers, IT pros, citizen developers, business sponsors, and end users. Lots of different personas. This helps ensure that the learning and enablement map directly to the real responsibilities and outcomes. Next, actually assess their maker readiness. A simple maturity check gives you a starting point for each group and helps you define the right depth of engagement. From there, you can define those specific learning paths, whether that's foundational learning or advanced AI training. Pair each of the roles with the right learning track, hands-on projects, community touch points, so training actually turns into real capability. Now, once you've built those skills, the next step is creating a space where those skills and best practices can actually be shared and you can build and foster a community. So what you could consider is actually launching a maker community, where you could use hackathons, ideation sessions, or even shared resources to bring those practitioners together and accelerate innovation. What's most important is documenting and sharing the processes, the best practices, the success use cases, so knowledge becomes reusable across those teams. And then engage leadership and developers alongside the makers to build the momentum and credibility. And finally, then scaling and growing that. Empowering the champions to run community events, sustain engagement, spread adoption across the company. The goal is to foster a thriving community that drives and turns individual learning into a collective capability. Now, the final pillar, security and governance. Accountability is a starting point. The majority of visionaries and achievers report having designated executive sponsors, 57% and 61%, compared to 16% of discoverers. Executive sponsorship is a baseline expectation for organizations running agent initiatives. Safeguards are used to ensure AI is used safely and responsibly, and another key foundation. Operators lead here at 52%, with achievers close behind. Discoverers sit at 17%, which highlights uneven readiness in putting the right controls in place. Importantly, safeguards should be viewed as enablers. They help teams innovate safely by managing the risk rather than slowing the progress. Then there's AI compliance monitoring. Only 12% of discoverers strongly agree to actively monitoring AI to ensure compliance with regulations and responsible AI principles. Achievers, on the other hand, are much higher at 61%. It's important to look out for exposure to shadow AI and inconsistent compliance practices. Taken together, this pillar shows that scaling AI agents responsibly isn't just about the tools and the models. It's about clear accountability, the strong guardrails, and ongoing monitoring so teams can innovate with confidence. And as you think about securing and governing your agents, consider these activities. Managing the makers and agents with clear roles and accountability. Build data security and safety guardrails into every workflow. Evaluate AI and agents through red teaming and continuous risk assessments. Manage posture and protect against threats proactively. Secure and govern data and access with enterprise-grade controls, but then also balance that with understanding some of the foundational commitments, like the Secure Future Initiative, secure by design, by default, and in operations. Privacy principles, like where the data remains private at work, at home, and on the go. And responsible AI principles, like fairness, reliability, safety, inclusiveness, transparency, and accountability. Considering all of these can help you start secure and stay secure. Okay, let's bring this to life by walking through the Agent Readiness Assessment. So this is the homepage for the Agent Readiness Assessment. It shows you a quick overview of what it is, how you can get started, and it also shows you a sample report if you want to understand what you will get in return for spending the next 10 minutes completing some of the questions. So scroll down, you can learn a little bit more about why agent readiness matters and download the new ebook, which is a breakdown into those pillars in a little bit more detail about how we shape them. And we can see the framework at the highest level of each of the different pillars. But for now, I'm just going to get started. You agree to a couple of questions to share about where you are on your journey with agents, and then you'll get straight into those pillars that we just spoke about. Each question proposes a statement or capability, and you can strongly disagree to strongly agree for each of them. And this will then create your score and personalized report. Now, to save time, obviously you can see the progress bar to see how far you've got left, but I'm going to skip over to the results page to show you what it will look like. You can see your segment. So for this respondent, they're a discoverer early on in their agent readiness journey. I can download my results, which shows a quick PDF that I can get all the detail I need, or I could even retake the assessment. On the results page, it shows you a high-level review of how you're doing, but the reality is you want to open up that PDF and get the deeper insights. It shows you a quick matrix showcasing how you're comparing to the 500 respondents that completed the survey, and you can zoom in and learn a little bit more. You can see a preview of each of the different sections, from readiness highlights to focus areas by each of the different pillars. And now if I wanted to learn more, as an example for AI vision as being a focus area, how could I improve that? That's where I then download my results. In a couple of seconds, I can download the PDF. It's not gated, so you can access it very easily, and I can scroll through and learn a little bit more. You'll notice that it also includes the date, so I can then compare and contrast how I've done over time if I want to take it again. A quick overview of what agent readiness is, the matrix that we just saw, and what I want to hold on is two things. The agent readiness scorecard, which shows you how you're performing across the board. So you get your overall agentic score, your strategy and readiness score, your execution score, and then each by the different pillars that are required. So business and AI strategy, business process mapping, tech and data, organizational readiness and culture, and security and governance. Now, the final thing I want to show you is the one-pagers that you get for each of the pillars and where that guidance sits. So I'm going to show you an example, like the business and AI strategy. You'll notice that you then have your highlights. So we were doing well on agent strategy. Here's how to maintain progress. And then if there's a focus area where you could be doing better, like AI vision, you then get 3 considerations that you could consider to then improve your position and readiness in your company. The good thing is that you have one-pagers for each of those different pillars, personalized based off how you responded to each of those capabilities. Now, if I keep scrolling, you can get more information on the methodology as needed. You can see the segments and explanations to how they kind of work out. And you can also get some of the stages and signals of readiness by each of the pillars to understand what that means in a descriptive way. And finally, all your questions are in the appendix if you want to compare and contrast them in the future. And that's it. From starting fresh to receiving a personalized report, with first step guidance, the assessment gives you a quick way to understand where your organization stands today. To recap, we've walked through the 5 pillars that help an organization become agent ready. AI and business strategy, aligning the initiatives to enterprise priorities and measuring the business outcomes. Business process mapping, documenting the workflows and dependencies so agents can integrate seamlessly into the work today. Technology and data strategy, by building a secure, integrated platform while ensuring data is accessible and trustworthy. Organization readiness and culture, by preparing the people, the roles, and change management practices so adoption sticks. And finally, security and governance, embedding the responsible AI principles and safeguards from day one. All of these 5 pillars work together to help organizations understand how to balance the vision and execution to scale agents confidently and responsibly. Now, if you're thinking, I'd love some programs to help me move from understanding to the doing, we have a set of hands-on programs that map to each of these pillars that we've just discussed. For AI and business strategy, we have the Build Your Own Frontier Firm playbook. This helps you create a clear AI vision and actionable plan. For business process mapping, we have the Reimagined Business Processes. You envision high-value workflows to modernize first. For technology and data strategy, we have the Copilot Studio Architecture Bootcamp that strengthens your technical foundations. For organization readiness and culture, we have the Build the Frontier Adoption Blueprint and skilling opportunities like Power Up and AI webinars. And for security and governance, we have the Govern and Secure AI Agents workshops. This program helps you establish guardrails and controls and the compliance frameworks. These programs turn the framework into action, helping organizations move from the assessment stage to execution with guidance. Finally, here are your 4 steps to get going. Step 1, complete the agent readiness assessment that we just walked through at aka.ms/agent readiness and start benchmarking where your organization stands today. Step 2, review your personalized results and couple that with the agent readiness playbook at aka.ms/agent readiness framework to identify the goals and close any gaps. Step 3, join the workshops and bootcamps we just covered. These give you hands-on structure to build the capabilities behind each of those pillars. And then step 4, make it real. Start by building and prioritizing a roadmap of your high-value use cases that align with your business strategy and aspired outcomes. I want to thank you for spending the time today to learn about agent readiness. You now have a clear framework, along with the practical guidance, tools, and programs to help you get started. I'm excited to see you put these into action and turn readiness into real business impact for your organization.